All right, good deal. Alec, we're live, man. I'm here with Alec Emmert, who's the CEO of something called Service to Schools. So, man, I'm looking forward to catching up with you and just kind of hearing, like I was just mentioning to you before we started recording, like there's a lot of overlap between, I feel like, the former athlete story and military veterans. So, just looking to share your story and then kind of what you're doing with Service to School, man.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah, where do you want me to start?
yeah. Um, so I guess your background because you grew up and I think I heard you saying that you went to a prep school and then ended up going to Navy. So
I did.
what's the what's the story just some of your background, like what's the story there and how you got to Navy?
Yeah, absolutely. So background is I was born in DC. I see you're a big Philly sports fan. Unfortunately, I would say fortunately I'm a big DC sports fan, but you all have had a few more wins than we've had recently across the board. But I've got hope right now. We've got great quarterback in. I was pretty happy at the draft this past weekend. I was pretty happy with some of our picks. So still looking good with the Caps, and will always hang my hat on that 2019 series win. So just had
There you
to give
go.
that plug for DC,
Hey,
especially
have
because
to.
I went to business school at Wharton in Philly. So yeah, quickly off topic there, but I had to make that point. So yeah, from DC originally. My father was in the Foreign Service, so I spent a lot of my childhood overseas and specifically in Brazil. Came back to DC for high school. I went to a school called Landon in DC. It's known for its lacrosse program. Didn't play lacrosse, so I'd grown up outside the U.S. So coming back to we were the top lacrosse school in the country in my senior year. So you're not exactly, unless you're an exceptional athlete, which I was not, you're not going to be able to pick up a sport to that level that quickly, having not played it. So yeah, I played varsity soccer, varsity football, varsity track. So did a bunch of sports and was always pretty athletically active. I had always thought about joining the Navy, and growing up in the DC area, the Naval Academy was a stone's throw away. Annapolis is, about 30-45 minutes away from DC. So my family and I took a few trips to Annapolis, walked around the academy, and I was pretty much sold from there. And really, I think the whole time I was in high school, I was always had that mindset that I wanted to go to the Naval Academy. I was never good enough really to compete for a spot on any of the varsity sports teams, like getting recruited for football or anything like that. So I had to do it through school. So worked hard, got the grades I needed, got in, and then I was active in sports while I was there as well. I played club sports. I did technically under 165-pound football was a varsity sport there, but then also played club rugby. So yeah, that was kind of it in a nutshell. So basically, for me, it came down to having an interest in the Navy, and then having that reinforced by being from DC and being so close to the Naval Academy.
That's great, man. So when you what's it like at Navy? Like what's it like to what's the realities of just being there at school? I mean, obviously you probably have it's not a traditional college experience, right? So what's that like actually being there and going through school there?
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a lot of discipline there, and I mean, the thing. I talked to friends of mine who've gone to boarding school, and like a really good friend of mine from high school. Like he had been a friend of mine before, but he hadn't gone to my high school. He gone to a different boarding school, and we stayed in touch the whole time I was at the Naval Academy. And I was talking to him about like the different rules that I had to follow. Just like you got to be up at a certain time. You got to be back in your room at a certain time. Lights out at a certain time, like all that kind of stuff. And he's like, it just feels like that's just really intense boarding school with a military uniform on. And I was like, yeah, it kind of sounds like that's the case. So yeah, the first year is very intense. I mean, you do like a lot of the physical training there, like when you show up, and they're really kind of taking high school kids and teaching them what it means to be in the military, and making sure that you've got really kind of the grit to make it, because the military is a tough profession. So they need to kind of instill that in you in that first year. And then the physical, like a lot of that physical stuff, like the early morning wake ups, early morning runs, like that kind of stuff stops after that first year. Is no longer mandatory because you become an upperclassman, you get privileges, and then it really sort of becomes that kind of boarding school on steroids type of environment. And so, yeah, that was it. For me, I had I'd say a pretty mixed experience there. Like there's parts of it I liked a lot. Like I made some great friends. I liked the culture in terms of sports, and then lack of freedom kind of got to me. When you're in your early 20s, you've kind of got a few things on your mind, like partying, going out, doing that kind of stuff. Luckily enough, I had some friends in the DC area who've gone to school at places like Georgetown, Maryland, so I was able to get out a bit, but a little bit more freedom as always would have been great. And that's when I talk to people about the Naval Academy versus ROTC. A lot of times, like I'm always a very proud Naval Academy graduate. But with that being said, you do give up a lot going there. And when people do go through a normal college experience, I think that in many ways that can be a little bit better of an option at times. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah. No, man, I have a ton of respect for guys that go to the the armies and navies of the world, because I was actually looking. I took a recruiting trip down to Navy, and I think at the time I was just like, this isn't for me. I wanted to have that college experience that you were just talking about. Now in hindsight, I'd be like, you probably should have considered that a little bit more. But I have a ton of respect for guys that go through that. So what was it like the first couple of years after the Navy? Because you have to serve, is it 5 or 6 years? Like
It's a 5-year commitment. And so most things you do there, with the exception of what's called surface warfare, which is just kind of your standard officer on a ship, you have to go to school first. So, you want to be a Marine, they've got basically about, anywhere between, 9 months to a year of training you have to do right off the bat. Pilot, I think flight school is probably 2+ years. SEALs obviously, but all the different branches have got some kind of training. So I was a nuke submarine officer, and really, like, start to finish the submarine officer training pipeline, it's about like a year and a half, give or take, probably, anywhere in that ballpark. You have to do 3 different phases of it. So you start off going through nuclear engineering school, which is called power school. And that's 6 months in Charleston, South Carolina, which is just reactor theory, nuclear engineering. It's all in the classroom, learning how a nuclear reactor works, specifically a nuclear reactor that powers one of our ships. After that, you go do another 6 months. You can either do that in Charleston or upstate New York. I stayed in Charleston for it, which is hands-on training on a nuclear reactor, where you have to essentially show that you can operate it safely. You have to understand in a hands-on fashion how each part of that nuclear reactor plant works. There's a bunch of exams you have to take, and you have to kind of go through a final evaluation where they give you the go, no go. It's like, is this person good enough to qualify? Are they going to operate this reactor safely and be able to, be sent to a ship? And so you do that. And then after that, if you pass, you get to go to 6 months, or I forget how long it was. I want to say 6 months, 4 to 6 months of, it's called Submarine Officer Basic Course, which is learning the fundamentals of how to drive a submarine or operate a submarine. It's just learning, how to maneuver the ship underwater, how to identify contacts, and really just the fundamentals of operating a submarine independent of the nuclear reactor. So it's a fairly rigorous pipeline, which takes you about close to like a year and a half before you get to your first ship. And then, so I did that, and then got to my ship. And then I spent, the next like little over probably 3 years on the ship till I hit that 5-year point.
Gotcha. Okay. So those 5 years, were you ready to be done with those 5 years by the time like you hit your, the 5-year mark? And then I'm sure there's some guys who want to be career Navy or Army, whatever it is. But where were you at that time?
Oh, and I was pretty tapped out, to be honest. I stayed at what they call them shore tours. And so the way the Navy works, I think the Army does things, like every branch does things a little differently. But the way the Navy does it is it's pretty smart, because you'll do your initial commitment, that initial 5 years. And in that initial 5 years, you're out to sea. And I was doing this during the GWAT times when the operational, or they call it operational tempo, like essentially like how much time you spend deployed versus being at home, was incredibly high. So in that 3 years, I spent the bulk of the time, and I'd say either training up to be overseas or overseas. I deployed. So with that, you have very little time to kind of get your life in order. To take grad school tests like the GMAT or the GRE, to find a job, or to find a job, things like that. So, however, they will offer you about 2 to 3 years of what they call a shore assignment, where you can. It's basically a desk job somewhere in the world, and it's a lot chiller than what you're doing. So you're kind of, in many cases, people will just say, hey, all right, I've just done this 5 years. It's been crazy. I'm just going to get on this, do this next 2 years, sit at a desk, do shore-based support, and figure my life out. And so I was in that position where I did. Luckily enough, I love being overseas. So I was lucky enough to do 2 shorter overseas tours, which got me to about 8 years of service. So I did first part of that in Bahrain, which is a place I deployed to, or we had stopped off when I was deployed, and had some really cool experiences there. So I wanted the chance to go back. Did that for a bit, and then I had the chance to go to Naples, Italy, and then wrapped it up. So after that, I had pretty much done it. It was going back for another sea tour was not something I was really feeling. I was pretty spent, and I do have friends who stayed in. Like one of my really good friends right now he's a captain of a submarine he's deployed overseas right now and doing great things. So you see people who have stayed in, and I've got my hat off to them, because for me it was just kind of that first tour, and I'd had enough.
Yeah, man. Man. Well, I feel like I heard you in another. Like I was going to say thank you, but what's the like? Are veterans receptive to that? Like when you say thank you for your service, is that?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, so here's the thing.
Yeah,
So it's appreciated. Like I'm like, yeah, like I know, I appreciate it. Thank you
yeah,
for your support and all that. And then a lot of us. So for me personally, like I do, I carry a little bit of guilt with me. Like I don't feel like I've done enough to deserve being thanked. Like I always say, like the Navy gave me more than I ever gave the Navy. And I think about, like, I've had a few good friends who have either been killed or wounded in action overseas. Especially, we're kind of part of the 9/11 generation, so lost a lot of really good people. And then people are fighting some battles with themselves back here at home. Some demons that people are dealing with from stuff they saw overseas. So in my case, I don't really feel like I deserve to be thanked, but I do appreciate it. So that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question.
there you go. Yeah, yeah. I know there's a lot of I had a guy on here that helps veterans with PTSD, like with different methodologies that he uses. But yeah, man, it's super interesting. Um, so I'd love to just kind of segue into service to school, like
Yep.
how you found that program. Maybe if you could just explain what that is and kind of what it means to you at this point, would be
Yeah,
great.
so Service to School has been around for over, I think it was 2013. It was founded officially, so 12 years now, and it's started out primarily helping out people get veterans getting into grad school, because there were a lot of vets out there that were the founders had gone to, got to remember, Yale Law School, Stanford Business School, and NYU Stern Business School. And so they were really helping out a lot of their friends get in. They saw that there was the value of that near peer mentorship. And then what they did is they expanded it not only to business school, but then really where it was needed most, which was the undergrad area. So really helping enlisted veterans get into good schools, because the bottom line right now is that there's a lot of predatory institutions out there. The GI Bill is an incredible benefit. It's very generous, and it's something that we really can't afford to waste as veterans. And there are these for-profit schools out there that will prey on veterans because they want that GI Bill money, but they will not be invested in their success. And we've seen some pretty, I'd say, low graduation rates for veterans across the board, right? Not as part of our program, but nationwide. It's like, I want to say it's about 50%. give or take, which is just such a waste of talent of the GI Bill. And so what Service to School aimed to do was help these veterans understand the college admissions process and fully live up to their potential. And that's what we've been able to do. So right now, every year we work with we send about 650 plus veterans to college. We've got over 30 partner schools on the undergraduate level, and these are some of the most selective schools in the country. And so we've got Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, and Stanford as partners. So those are some of the kind of the big name selective schools there. But we've also got state schools like the University of South Carolina, University of Michigan, Catholic schools like Notre Dame, Xavier, small liberal arts colleges like Amherst, Williams. And so really, like whatever kind of flavor of school a veteran wants to go to, we've got a good school as part of our partnership that we'll be able to refer them to and help them get into. So not everybody wants to go to an Ivy League school. People want to go and have a different experience, and we're here to help them out and accomplish that.
Yep. It's great, man. So, and you went through the program yourself, and then now you're the CEO, right?
Yeah, I did. So I started out, so I've been a service school ambassador. I started out in I want to say it was 2015. So I found out about the organization back then. I hadn't gone to grad school yet, or hadn't gone to my MBA program yet. And I started mentoring enlisted veterans at that point for undergrad. And then around 2016, 2017, I decided I wanted to go to business school. And so I got an ambassador myself who was incredibly helpful. So I hit pause on helping people, got help myself. Then I was accepted to Wharton, a school that I had no business getting into because of the advice that I got and the mentorship I received from that ambassador. And then I went and then paid it forward by being an ambassador myself. And so all told, I was an ambassador for about 7 years before I became CEO. So I volunteered for that entire time.
Gotcha. So why go back to school versus, this is probably a question that you get frequently, but why go back to school versus maybe just try to go find a job? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would hire veterans, but what's that decision there for people? Like, what's that?
Yeah, like? I mean, there's a variety of reasons. So the big one is upskilling, right? So coming out of the military, you've got some great skill sets, but unless you are doing the job that you did in the military, you're going to need to learn some new skills, like whether it be, I'm just throwing this out there, if you want to, become a software engineer, you're an information technology specialist in the military, you want to become a software engineer, or say you could have been an infantry person in the military, but if you want to have a particular job, school is a great way to get the skills you need to get hired into that profession. That's a big one. And then really, I'd say like the most powerful one really is just that kind of break from service, to be able to go to a good institution, be surrounded by very bright people, and take that pause to look at the different options that are out there and understand what it takes to get into that particular career field that you want to go into, and understand really, is that career field that I thought was really cool when I was in the military really what's best for me, or is there something else out there that I'm really interested in doing, and really just kind of getting a better understanding of the business landscape outside of there. And the big thing that we as veterans have is the GI Bill, which is a game changer, because there's a lot of debate we see right now about, hey, is college really worth it? Are people getting into crazy student debt, getting degrees that don't really help them achieve their goals, all this kind of stuff. But the thing is, as a veteran, most of us will be going to school essentially for free. And not only will we be going to school for free, we'll also be paid to go there because we get a monthly living stipend. So in my eyes, it's a pretty open and shut case as to why veterans should go to college, because you remove that kind of financial aspect out of it. Unless you've got a clear vision when you get out of the military of what you want to do, and it doesn't need a degree or doesn't require a degree to do it, then I'd say always go for that college degree.
Sure. So how often do just people that you come across, how often do you find that they know exactly what they want to do versus they're like, hey, I have no clue. I mean, I'm sure that it's a big deal. You get out of the military, that's all you know. Like, how many folks actually know what they want to do?
So, like, I mean, a lot of people will have a general idea, but it's just that it's a general idea saying, hey, I want to be a Wall Street guy, or hey, I want to go work in tech. Those are kind of general ideas, but a lot of times people don't understand the different types of jobs that they can have there, and there's no real kind of clear focus. So a lot of the people that will come into our organization will have a general idea of what they want from their career, and they'll say something to the effect of, because we onboard, or people will we interview about 2,500 people a year, and that first conversation will generally go something like, hey, I'm getting out, love to get into the tech field. I'm not really sure what the best way to do that is. Thinking about going back to school. Do you guys know what kind of degree I should get to do that? And that's kind of like how it goes. So not a you know, clear plan, but a general idea and an ask as to how we can use our resources in school to help them achieve it.
Sure. Yep. And I'm sure just having people like you to walk them through that process is helpful in itself, right? I mean, so I'm sure a lot of these people feel like they're on an island maybe after they finish, but knowing that there's something, a service like service to school is just a great resource for them.
Yeah, and we like to be a source of truth, because like I said, we've worked with so many different people. We've got over 1,000 ambassadors, which are these peer mentors, that we work with. And the thing with that is that bad rumors start. And in my case, I remember when I was in the Navy, people would talk about, hey, go to business school, things like that. And people who had never been to business school would say something to the effect of, oh, it's either A, oh, that's just like a big waste of time. You can get better jobs without going to business school. Or things like, oh, hey, your late 20s, early 30s, they're never going to accept you. Like, there are these just so many bad rumors going around, that people would just perpetuate and then would use to make ill-informed decisions. And so at Services School, we just like to be that source of truth about the whole process. So whenever people call us up, we put them in touch with a mentor who can give them the truth, because that is someone to be an ambassador of ours. You will have had to have gone through the program you're advising on. So, in my case, kind of case in point, I was coming in interested in going to business school, didn't have a great understanding of what it was going to take for me to get into the school I wanted to get into, got the mentorship I needed to get there. And then when I went and became a mentor myself, I applied all the lessons I learned and experiences I had in the process to mentor other people and give them that truth.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you actually lived it. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
That
it's
makes
lived
sense.
experience. So that's
Yeah.
what we're working on, is lived experience. And it's 100% volunteer, and 100% volunteer based. So that's the other big thing is in the veteran community. There's like a lot of, there's a lot of predatory, um, I don't know, organizations, individuals, people out there that will, try to charge you money, for either advice or anything like that. We're not like, the military doesn't pay that well, right? We don't, like, very few people, even us officers, do not have a whole lot of disposable income. And so for us, we didn't want money to be a barrier for success. And so, like, an enlisted veteran, the hourly rate, I'm just going to do some quick back of the envelope math here. So the hourly rate for college admission consulting is about $150 an hour. So that's, $1,500 for 10 hours. Typically we work with an applicant for about 15 to 20 hours. So, average that out, that's over $2,000. That advice would cost, that mentorship would cost. And very few veterans have that kind of disposable income in their back pocket. So that's why, we're here, because we don't want that financial barrier to keep people from getting good advice. And so we don't want to be a bad actor. Everybody at our organization is a volunteer, except for our paid staff, which is full-time support, but all the mentors are volunteers. We got over 1,000 of them, and all the services we offer are free.
Man, that's great. Yeah. Cause Geez, that's expensive for for like consulting like that, or I don't know. Yeah, that hourly rate is insane. But
That's wild. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a business, and the other
yeah,
thing is, I'm not going to name and shame the organization. This isn't for veterans, but it's if you Google Wall Street Journal and mentoring, elementary school kids to college, you'll find this organization out there that charges. It's like something on the neighborhood of over $10,000 a year or something like that. It's absurd to start preparing elementary school kids to get into elite colleges. And to me, I see that, and that's the kind of thing that just like makes my blood boil, because that's just privilege. It's like if your parents have got that kind of money, your kid doesn't have to be that special. Not that sounds very it sounds very harsh, but you can be, any kid. And as someone coming from the sports community, you probably understand this as well. Like if you get, an average player and give them top tier coaching from a very early age, that coaching, which has got, through privilege, will make them a superior performer and able to outperform people who didn't have that privilege. And so for us, like when our veterans are applying to colleges, they're going up against people, or high school students that have had that degree of investment put into them. So we're like, we've got to level the playing field. We'll give them that degree of mentorship, but for free, because there's no way that they had that kind of privilege growing up. And so for us, that's why we're so passionate about what we do, because we see, a lot of the inequalities that exist in society, and very few veterans come from that kind of privileged background. People, the bulk of people join the military because they're looking for a good financial, not financial deal, but for financial stability and a dependable paycheck. And these are people who have got tremendous ability, tremendously high IQs, very, very capable people. And we just want to make sure that they have that fair chance at the American dream, at getting into that great college and becoming leaders of this country, right? And so, for me, I definitely do see that kind of clear parallel, like with sports. And it's just, if you give people the right coaching, they're going to succeed. And that's kind of how we try to operate as an organization.
for sure, man. Yeah, oh yeah. All the vets that I've ever been around, it's very similar to sports, and just the sense that it's structured, but you almost have that discipline built in. Like, and there's the accountability. You're part of a team, everything like that, and they just they want to be part of that team and contribute to a company, organization, whatever it is. So it's awesome, Alec.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, from your perspective as a CEO, like what are some of the things that maybe you've learned, or just some of the challenges of being a CEO? Would love to hear
Yeah.
a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, because for me, it's just been been a tremendous, real for me, growing experience. So, because coming from the military, I worked as a consultant in the private sector, so I always worked for big companies or in big organizations, because the military is a bureaucracy, and like there were never, there were concerns that I just never had or never even thought about. Whereas for me, it's just been kind of a 180, because like I would spend my time when I was a consultant, crunching PowerPoint, kind of crunching PowerPoint decks, building Excel models and all that. But I wasn't thinking strategically about the organization, where it was going, about how to grow my consulting firm. I was just kind of focused on that one kind of little piece of the puzzle, and I was a cog in a big machine, right? And so same thing in the military. And here I'm thinking every day about how we can grow our organization. Big things are, funding, how we can get new backers, how we can grow our reach, grow our applicant pool, help more vets out, grow our profile, really. And at the end of the day, like our goal is impact. We want to help as many veterans as we can get into schools that they probably couldn't have gone into without our support, and really just kind of be that force of good in the community. And it's just, a challenge every day, because it's a creative process. There's no there's no right or wrong answer. Everything's a judgment call. It's a lot of experimentation, trying different things out, seeing what's successful, what's not successful, what platforms work, which ones don't. And then it's just kind of like no day's the same, no week's the same. Like sometimes I'll be, I'll be making decks. I'll be like making a deck for our board of directors. I'll be making a pitch deck for potential backer or supporter of ours. Some days I'll be on a PowerPoint, or not on a podcast like this. So yeah, it's just like it's an awesome job. I love it, and for me, just having done this, I see that kind of like the corporate 9 to 5 jobs, and I just could never go back. Like it's been an awesome experience. So I'm really glad I had the time I had as a consultant, because I learned a lot of valuable skills. I advocate for the profession, for veterans, to get out. Getting time under their belt as a consultant is so beneficial to their development. But then for me, I just have found a lot more fulfillment in running an organization than just kind of being a part of one.
Yeah, man, that definitely. Um, well, listen, I want to start to wrap up here. I want to respect your time, but just like based on what you were just saying, and I found this too from some of my buddies who are vets. They almost, yeah, they have those jobs, but then they have that entrepreneurial spirit a little bit. Um, what do you say to those folks? Like, yeah, get a job, but then they almost still have this itch to do something themselves a little bit. Kind of sounds like your story. I don't know. Like, what do you suggest
Yeah,
to them?
I mean, like I think that
Because you got to
it's
start somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say so. It's always comes down to me, like the bottom line is knowledge is power and experience is power, right? And so, we always hear those stories about entrepreneurs who'll just have a wild idea, drop out of college and pursue it. And if that's kind of where you're at, if you've got that one idea that you're super passionate about, 100% go for it. But if you're not kind of all in for it, I say take as much time as you can to develop yourself and your skill set. So in my case, um, this opportunity only came up when I was 40. I'd gone through I've done a lot of other stuff, right? I'd done the military, variety of assignments in the military. I had done consulting for different firms, done defense consulting overseas, got the MBA, did McKinsey for a while, and it was just like this kind of like right time where this opportunity came up, and then it wasn't even a second thought, right? I was talking to this, here another sports analogy for you. Like I was talking about quitting McKinsey, and one of my friends was like, "You're quitting McKinsey? That's like leaving the Yankees." And I was like, "Well, I hate the Yankees, but point taken." But it was like one of those things that you didn't even. I was like, "Oh, like I never even thought about that," because I was like, "This, I'm so passionate about." Jumping off or getting off this kind of corporate train, where you're every year kind of moving up that new level and doing my own thing, because the opportunity presented itself that I couldn't pass up. And that's kind of what I'd say. Like if you've got that entrepreneurial idea, if you've got that one thing you just want to do, that's this idea that you believe in, you've got a game plan for it, go for it. But if it's not that 100% all in that you're all about, don't just try to just go into the entrepreneurial world just because that's what you want to, you think that's the cool thing to do. The better you can prepare yourself, the more time you can take to gain skills, the better your chances are to succeed. So when you do find that absolute, like 100%, yes, let's do it opportunity, you're going to be better prepared to succeed in it. So that's kind of my 2 cents.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice and good perspective. Yeah, because it's you just said it. You were 40 when this opportunity came up. Like
Yeah.
you put your time in and you learned. You had a bunch of other skill sets that led to this. So, and the Yankees aren't for everybody too. So, yeah,
No, no,
not
no.
a Yankees fan. Yeah. All right. Wow, cool, man. Just thanks for the time. Like I said, I came across, I think it was on LinkedIn, maybe. I came across your story and was just like, yeah, there's a lot of parallels between kind of what I'm trying to do with this in terms of former athletes and just, I don't know, like kind of figuring it out and giving them a platform. So even if this could relate to that, like, hey, maybe there's a former athlete out there that has worked for a couple years and he's like, you know what? I just want to go back to school and reset. Like there's definitely some parallels, or if there's some vets listening, hopefully can help out too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I went to business school. With he was a pitcher for the Cardinals. Guy called Tim Cooney. He's a Philly guy,
Oh
but
yeah,
but
he
yeah,
went to my high school actually. Yeah,
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
cool. You're a Malvern Prep guy.
yeah. He had a
Oh,
better
awesome.
baseball career than I did, but yeah,
Yeah, no, he was. He's at McKinsey. Awesome, incredibly smart guy. But yeah, it was kind of
cool.
funny because we linked up and we got to be friends because we went to that Wharton. We had our Wharton welcome weekend, and we were just both kind of like looking around. He's like, yeah, like my baseball career ended. Trying to figure out like what the best move for me to be, best move for me was, and just going back to school and kind of figuring things out from there. And we went and worked at the same consulting firm afterwards. And yeah, you see that a lot. There's definitely, a path there where every year a few former athletes will go to, particular business schools, and education is always a great way to transition.
Without a doubt, man. Yeah, because I just saw, I think Josh Rosen, former NFL quarterback, who
Yep.
kind of fizzled out a little bit. He's going to Wharton now too, which is
Oh,
kind of
is he?
interesting. So, yeah,
Wait, he played for,
yeah,
he was UCLA, right?
yeah. UCLA, and then I think he was the
Cardinals,
Cardinals.
was he?
Got drafted in the first
Yeah.
round, and unfortunately
Yeah.
didn't work out in football. But
Oh, wow.
I don't know,
That's
figuring out his next.
wild.
There you
Yeah,
go, figuring out the next thing. Yeah,
yeah, because we had two former pro athletes in our class. We had Tim and another guy called Eric Lorig, who played for the Saints.
okay,
So
cool,
yeah, yeah,
cool,
and then a
man,
few other like D1 college athletes as well. So yeah. So definitely schools definitely an opportunity.
for sure. Wow, if you just give a quick plug to Service to School, maybe just where folks could find you, where they could donate if they want to as well, if you could.
Yeah, website is serviceschool.org. So it is www.service, the number two, school.org. We've got a big donation button on there right on the front page. So if you want to stop on by, check us out, and leave a small contribution, we will not complain. So that's us.
There you go. Go ahead and donate. So, Alec, thanks, man. It was a pleasure having you on here, and just appreciate the time.
Absolutely, Joe. Great talking.